Welcome to TTELT. I'm Dr. Eileen Hale, the COO of Teaching Tips for English Language Teachers. We have a special guest with us today, Ms. Alexandra NGJELIU from Albania. I will introduce her in just 1 minute. I met Alexandra while I was teaching as an English language fellow in Albania at the University of Tirana. A mutual acquaintance of ours who was a Fulbright specialist connected us because he knew we were both entrepreneurial educators and he thought we would be a good connection. Hence, 2 years later, we are still in touch, even though I have come back to the United States. We've survived COVID and many other things. And I was so excited that she agreed to join us today because Alexandra is an exemplary entrepreneurial educator. And she's going to share with us today about how she started an online teaching business. Hello, Alex. So nice to have you join us today. How are you?
Hi, Eileen. I'm okay, thanks. What about you?
Great. You look beautiful as always.
Thanks.
I
Thank
just
you.
gave a nice introduction about you to our listeners. So we can jump right in and you can share a little bit more about yourself. I shared about how we met in Tirana, Albania, through a fellow Fulbright colleague and our entrepreneurial interests. So if you want to share a little bit more about how you started an online teaching business pre-COVID, before online was a real thing, how and why you jumped into this aspect of teaching.
Well, my teaching experience actually started way before when I was still a student and hasn't stopped ever since. Well, you know what they say, it's all about passion more than just being a job. It's giving purpose. It's meaningful once you see that the students actually learn something and it's because of you. So it's always been like that for me. And well, it goes way back, like when I was a student, and I would always take translations, movie translations or other documents on the way of teaching online and offline to kids and adults and foreigners and so on. So it's like being a workaholic 24/7 until one day I saw myself collapsing and I went to the ER, and from that moment on my life changed because I was laying in bed for more than 4 months, and going from one doctor to the other, they couldn't figure it out and they couldn't tell me whether I would walk again or not. So basically I lost all of my jobs, part-time jobs, and also my full-time job as a teacher, going to a language center, and I was left only with my online classes. So I was thinking, if this is going to be my future, I have to support myself in some way. And that's where my endeavors started. Like I thought of it as a personal project. I launched a personal website where I was the only teacher, and I was actually just promoting my one-on-one or group sessions as an English teacher, although I know other languages as well. And then it came up after a market study that I did for about 6 months. During this time, once I started the project, it turned out that other teachers, other experts were interested. So being in my position or having young kids or having other problems, they would be very interested to actually be part of this project that I would call now matured or grown up, because it's been like almost the 4th year that we've launched it. So Sapientify started as a personal thing because it motivated me to go out of the situation I was back then, laying in bed for a long time, and then it helped others as well. So now we have more than, I don't know, like 20 teachers teaching. We have different languages: Italian, English, French, German, Albanian as the native language for other immigrants. And well, yeah, so everything can be possible. One problem can actually be the solution for something bigger, as long as you see the bright perspective.
Amen. That's a great way to take something that's a very challenging circumstance and turn it into something wonderful. It's great to see you walking again and doing all that you're doing.
I've had struggles, but yeah, I keep on moving on and I don't let them break me down.
Yeah, it's incredible. Your entrepreneurial spirit shines through. So, for those of our listeners that are potentially interested in doing something along these lines, can you give us some examples of like what made your teaching platform take take a leap forward? How did you gain success and your stride, if you will, as you moved from one or two students to hiring other teachers? How did you gain traction into developing such a business?
What I would firstly suggest to them is, well, trial and error is the key, Eileen, and you might know it as well. But I started everything trying it myself. Like I started with my own students, my one-on-one students, private tutoring, and I actually asked them to go online to test it, whether they would feel comfortable or not. And bear in mind, this was a situation pre-COVID. So they were a bit skeptical. They were judgmental, thinking that the connection would be missing. And well, I invited them, and they were pretty satisfied, because they were half laying in bed, I would say, or just, I don't know, like sitting comfortably at home. And yeah, once they saw it, their skepticism went away, and they really liked the process of learning online. So first of all, trial and error, and before you go big, you have to start small. And once we started growing and hiring the first teachers, we always try to tend to our students' language needs. So that was our priority, to keep the success by tending to their needs. And if they suggested something, because every month we would do these Google forms and interviewing them, whether they had some suggestions or they needed something to be changed, we did that. So that's how we gained also their trust. And the referee system, them referring other people as well, helps you stand on the market. So that would be the second suggestion I would give to everyone. And also the third would be to train yourselves. By teaching doesn't mean that you know it all, and you have always to be updated with the latest techniques, the new curriculums. So train yourself and learn, and then you can teach. That, at least that's how we do it. We train our teachers every month, not only with the new stuff, but we also, the brain actually tries to forget what we don't practice daily. And that's why, so we review the previous stuff, and also we train them for the updates and the new programs. But also, if you choose the right niche, so for example, we focus on immigrants because they need the language. That helps you as well, because you know who you're targeting and what they need, and makes it easier.
Yes, it's very important. And English for like specific purposes, correct? In terms of immigrants,
Exactly.
business people, or other types of English that the students need. So I heard you say, just to reiterate, make your focus student-centered, first and foremost. Keep your teachers trained. What kind of trainings do you do, for example, on a monthly basis? Can you give, like the last 2 months, for example, what new trainings you brought for your teachers to keep them updated in current methods?
It's like a chain reaction. For example, once we take our students' feedback, for example, if they say we want to have more communication or colloquial English, for example, where we focus on that and we see, for example, now with COVID happening, everything went online and we try to adapt everything online. And we see what tools we can use. For example, we have digital flashcards that help students with pictures, with words, with sentences, with quizzes. And we train the teachers with a new tool if we add one, or we train them how to handle difficult situations, being those problematic students, being those technical issues. What else? When we, for example, when the lights run out, yeah, that happens too, because we live in the third world country and the electricity goes out. And there might be a lack of internet connection. So different types of situations. And also we have our own teachers train the other teachers with new techniques, because we developed this Teacher of the Month program, where the best teacher of the month shares her own techniques and skills to the rest of her colleagues. And this is also effective.
That's a really great idea, the Teacher of the Month. I think we're going to have to incorporate that into our program as well.
So why not?
Teaching tips with the Teacher of the Month from around the world. I like that idea very much.
Yeah, you can add that too.
See, all of us teachers like to collaborate and share ideas. We want to be, what's the word? Collaborative rather than competitive. Okay, because we all can benefit from what each other has to offer and share with one another.
Well, I suppose, and I believe actually, that we are all unique in the sense that you could get my technique the way I share it, but you'll adapt it to your own personality and method of teaching. So it will still be unique.
That's really true, because everybody brings their own personality to the method. And that would be a fun way to share the method and then have them implement it with their personality flair, if you will, whether it's total physical response or something like that. Yeah. And I really like how you talked about listening to their students and teaching what they need and want to learn. That is so important, because I think so often, especially in traditional classrooms with, I say, traditional curriculum, it's a kind of prescribed curriculum that we as teachers are told to teach, but oftentimes it misses the mark with what the students are interested in and or want to learn or can practice in real life outside the classroom. So what you're doing is very appropriate to keying in on the students' interests and a specialized market. How, going on that, how do you generate, I mean, you said, I know you mentioned referrals, but even before you got the first referral, how did you get your initial students and your initial teachers? Like, at what point did you decide, I need to hire another teacher? This is too many students for me.
Well, it actually was the market study. I saw that there were many people interested because the lack of time, first of all. Like I said, we were focused mainly on immigrants. Whether they're Albanian immigrants or other immigrants out there. And they have big issues, let's say, regarding a foreign teacher. So they don't understand the foreign teachers, and this gets them more introvert. So they think that they cannot learn the language. Other issues might be, for example, lack of time. So I would always be flexible and adapt to their schedule and free time. But at some point, I couldn't handle anymore because, for example, they would be always interested for Monday classes, morning classes and afternoon or evening classes. And my schedule was always busy. but it's very hard to say to a client, no, sorry. So yeah, that was the point. I was training other teachers, and also we had interest for other languages as well. But since many people, for example, are emigrating to Germany, there were so many students interested to have German classes online. And one step after the other, this led to expanding the business and hiring them. Some would be part-time, some would be full-time, but it didn't matter as long as the teachers were qualified and adapting quickly to the technical situations that the online world has.
That's great.
So yeah,
How did
that
you?
was the starting point.
Yeah, thank you. How did you determine a pay scale, if you will? Particularly, I'm asking even from the American perspective, for immigrants and refugees that come here. I have taught a lot as well, but very frequently they don't have much money at all to pay for private classes, and often go to a community college where they get free classes. So, how were you able to set your prices in an affordable way for immigrants, for example, in Albania?
Well, Eileen, if I were to be mainly a businessman and not a teacher or entrepreneur, I would think of the money first, and I wouldn't be targeting immigrants. But I wanted, since I started my profession, to leave a mark or to make a difference in my students' lives, like I said. And what I would do was, for example, compared to immigrants living in Germany, I would figure out by asking my relatives living there what would the average salary of an immigrant employee would be. I would just deduct the costs and everything else and figure out how much they would spend for their courses, enough to have a quality course, language course, but also to for the teacher to have a profit. So not just to give it for free, obviously,
Right.
but not to make it also too expensive for them not to be able to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I would do the same also for those that live in England or other places. So we took an average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a lot of research. It sounds like
It's a studded market, my dear, and it took me 6 months. I would just think about everything, how would the traction would be projected, or how much they would pay, how much I would pay to my teachers, and the costs and everything. But it was I had zero background in business. And I would just
that's probably encouraging for our listeners to hear, because many people
zero.
feel like they can't do this if they're not trained in some business skills.
Yeah, I am a teacher. I'm an English teacher. That's how I started.
But it shows any one of us can be entrepreneurs as teachers, and often it's more fun, can be. So let's jump into what are the best benefits and practical aspects of being your own boss and having an entrepreneurial teaching business.
Well, the first I could think of, it would be on the upper part. Obviously, you have to wear like a t-shirt to look a bit presentable, but if you like it, you could wear pajamas or shorts, lower part of your body, and that's what we enjoy the most as online teachers.
Comfortable.
I don't, I don't know if you feel me.
Yes, he's comfortable.
Yeah. The second would be like, well, you could just, I don't know, like sip some wine in the mug, pretending it's coffee or just tea, and nobody will notice. But please don't get drunk. Yeah. And well, the rest is a bit more serious. It's like you get to have less taxes and less expenses, and where you could use a home office or even just a small office would be okay, even for your employees, like in the future. Because as you can tell, I have a digital background, and the lighting must be natural, but it doesn't matter what's behind of you because it will cover. And yeah, that's pretty cool. You can organize your time better. You decide which hours you want to work, and which hours you want to spend with your family or with yourself, and traveling also. So you can travel, and as long as you have a Wi-Fi connection, you earn. You still earn. You still work.
Yeah.
By the beach, for example.
Right, right.
Yeah, and there's infinite resources of materials out there to use to train yourself and to train teachers and so on. There's plenty of websites that offer free trainings.
That's what I was going to ask you about. Are there any specific ones you would recommend? Go ahead.
Yeah, for example, the ones that I always use is Coursera. It's Future Learn. There are some Udemy courses that are free available, but also YouTube is a great resource for business books, because you could have audio. And for example, while I go to the gym or I go jogging, I just put my earphones on and I go to YouTube. And for example, the latest book I'm reading is The Lean Startup. So you just go to Google and somebody there, I thank God always that there are good people recording their voices and just putting the free books for us to just, listen. Because obviously in these busy times, we don't have time to educate ourselves enough.
Yeah. And what about curriculum websites for, say, a teacher says, well, I want to go ahead and do this. Where do they start with the curriculum?
Well, some of the tools that we always use is, for example, Go Conquer. It has digital flashcards like Go Conquer. And another one, for example, there's plenty. Let me just check. So many.
Yeah. We'll put these in the web, our YouTube. We'll put them in our notes.
Yeah, Canva, for example. With Canva, you could make presentations. You could make whatever you want, like flashcards, or you can print download PDF versions or picture versions or anything. Like Canva is for free, and it's like amazing for us teachers. And there's there's so many websites that you could get available PDF books, and you could get like teacher lessons, like lesson plans.
Yes.
Like ready-made ideas for teachers out there. And well, if you want something more professional, you can go to TPT, Teachers Pay Teachers, and they're like very cheap. Or Twinkle if you are teaching kids. Like Twinkle has this very cheap monthly subscription, and it allows you to download whatever you want. That's how I would teach kindergarten kids back then.
That's great. Okay, yeah, if you put those into your end notes too, we'll include them for our listeners. They can also view this on YouTube.
Yeah, and not only, but I would invite them at this point to our workshop in August, right?
Yes, I was going to mention that in just a minute, but yes, Alex will be presenting this in more in-depth detail and maybe even sharing how she utilizes these online flashcards.
It's 17 hours.
So you can see those in person and have some time to practice with them. That will be coming up in August. We'll come back to that. But just before we get to the summary, can you share quickly any challenges, that the biggest challenges, and how you've overcome them? And then we'll jump into our summary.
Yeah, I could mention one, and it's the most important. You have to be wise, because once you start a business, you cannot tell which one is your friend or not, in the sense that if I would go back again, I would have started everything by myself, because it's like what I said, trial and error thing. And obviously you have to have friends around and mentors. That's very important, like a key to success, having mentors teaching you. That's how I learned business skills. But I would suggest, if it's possible, once you start, do not have partners. Try it yourself. Try it if you can handle it. And if you do go having partners in business, like with shares and everything, choose the right person. Be very wise and choose the right person, because that can lead to crashing your business apart. And that could lead to, I don't know, like legal problems and everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's a major advice, because it's difficult to take decisions by yourself at the beginning, but you're not alone. All of us have started at some point. Second problem, I would say, or second issue you will handle at the beginning would be the finances.
Right.
I started from scratch. I had zero amount of money in my bank account. So I was borrowing from friends and family and whatever I could, because I just believed it. I was insanely passionate about starting it. And it costed some money, but I was working there, and at the same time I was having another job that was covering my major expenses. So do not quit your job right away. Try to test it first, and if you see that at least you can cover your own salary, that's the point where you could actually quit the real job, like the full-time job.
Right.
That's the moment. So be very cautious, because it's like you have to burn the ship at some point, but not just right at the beginning.
Right.
So, yeah.
Both of those challenges. To recap, get the right people on the bus, if you will, if you're going to bring other people on. And I would even add to that, if you do go into a business with somebody else, that you do it either 51%, 49%, rather than 50-50, just so one person has, hopefully that might be you if you're starting it, ultimate say when decisions need to be made one way or the other, that you have the majority say. But yes, I even encourage, echo what Alex says about we've been having maybe more mentors and advisors rather than partners in the business. And then you can hire teachers, and you can be in charge of who you hire and just get advice. I think most important, most of us need a support system. But oftentimes you don't need to bring somebody into the business as that support system. You could have them more in the mentorship or advisory type of role rather than within the business itself.
And the financials.
Right. And the financials. I too, when I started my own business, like worked full time while starting another business. So I echo that sentiment as well. And it's challenging. So start when you're younger rather than you're older. We lose that momentum to do as much as we get older. So keep going on what you're doing. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I don't want to forget another major point, that the moment you want to quit, you have to be sure that there are amazing people that always got your back and support you, and don't let you just give up when your weak moments will come. I had you, Eileen, and I had other friends of mine that always supported me. So those moments will come sooner or later. Sometimes they will be like more suffocating than the passion you have about the job. But just take a day or two, have time to just relax and see things through, and then just keep doing what you're doing, because the reason why you went out there building a business, it's actually meaning that you are needed, that the world out there needs your skills, needs your expertise. That's why you're out there, and you have to always believe that and remember that.
That's a great point. So to recap the top teaching tips with Alexandra, don't overthink it, just do it. I like the analogy that comes to my mind is when you're sitting on the side of a pool or outside the ocean before you jump in a wave, the longer you sit and think, the more hesitant you become. So it has to at some point just dive in and go for it, because once you get in, you got to swim, right? So that's what Alex and I have done. So we encourage you to jump in the water, have your support system so you don't drown, but jump in and get going.
Yeah.
Find your niche, your clients that you really want to work with. And I think that's really important that Alexandra mentioned working with immigrants. I too love working with immigrants and refugees in America. I love working with all people, but finding that niche that really speaks to you will bring your passion to your teaching as well, and bring your expertise out as you really try to connect with the people that you most readily connect with for personality reasons, for age reasons. So if you like working with adults rather than children, make that your niche, or vice versa. If you love working with children and don't like working with adults, make that your niche, okay? But make sure you clearly identify that, because oftentimes we get pulled in too many directions and try to do everything. And I think that can be detrimental to our success. At least really do well in one niche and then expand to other niches if you want to expand. Would you echo that?
Yeah, I know that it could be intriguing, and it can be tempting. But in Albania, we have an expression that says you cannot hold two pumpkins in one arm, under one arm, you know? Yeah, because one of them will fall. So hold one first, and if you're like getting the hand of it, and if you're stable enough, you can try to find a way to hold the other, because it needs techniques and then and experience. That's why I always say start small. Get the experience, because as a new entrepreneur, or just even as a freelancer, you have to get experience. You might be experienced as a teacher, but you are not experienced training others, hiring others, no matter how many books you've read, because experience is something different.
That's really true. And you mentioned getting the tools you need, whether those are tools that you mentioned. Do you want to recap the ones that for teaching tools that you mentioned? Twinkle and Canva. There was one other you mentioned.
Go Conquer also,
Yes,
for digital quizzes and flashcards. And
exactly. And we have a lot of those as well. Quizlet, quizzes. So there's
Kahoot.
lyric training. Kahoot, yes. So get the tools that you need, become really proficient with them, and then implement them. And finally, believe in yourself, right?
Yeah.
Share.
Yeah. Because if you don't, nobody else will. You have to give that energy. You have to make the impact in other people. And you have to understand that it's like I said, a chain reaction. If you believe in yourself, if you believe in your dream, how you imagine your business to be, that's the starting point, and everything follows. Like, you have to just go for it, just do it, be crazy enough, be motivated, and be passionate, and be disruptive, most of all.
That's right, because that will shine through in your teaching. So thank you so much, Alex. We're going to share now your upcoming workshop in August. We'd love you to come back and join us with Alexandra in live person on Friday, August 6th at 3 p.m. as Eastern Daylight Time, or Eastern Standard Time, New York. And Alex will be going more in depth on her techniques, her curriculum ideas, sharing them live with us and giving you time to practice them, and answering any questions you might have for the what ifs. Okay? So please join us Friday, August 6th at 3 p.m. for Alex's live workshop. I'll also be doing one in honor of my birthday month. My birthday was July 4th. I'm doing a live workshop on the independence of teachers on Friday, July 30th at 12 p.m., 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. And finally, at the end of every month, we have our Saturday Teacher Talks, TTELT Talks. This is July 31st at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about topics that most interest you. Stay tuned, because we're adding a time zone for those of you in the world that this time is not so convenient for. We're going to be adding another time zone for that. So stay tuned and check out our website for the times and events. Finally, I want to mention our month of fundraising this month in July. If you can follow us at the Rhodes Education Foundation on Facebook, that's our 501c3, You can find ways that you will be able to support us and donate to offering professional development for teachers globally that may not otherwise be able to afford professional development, and resources for teachers with limited resources and access to resources globally, whether that might be lack of Wi-Fi or tangible resources like we have more access to in America. So please support our work and our continuation of podcasts, workshops with wonderful experts in the field like Alex. You can find us at ttelt.org. Email us with any questions, tteltinfo@gmail.com. We look forward to seeing you at our next workshop, either this Saturday or whenever you can join us. Thanks so much, Alex. We really appreciate your participating with us today as well.
Thank you for inviting me.